Hi, Austin.
Hi, Johnny. I'm back.
How are you feeling?
Oh,
Because I heard
gosh.
that you were unwell last week, and I was worried.
There are several parts to that story.
Is one of them cholera?
No.
That's good, because if you had managed to somehow contract cholera, or even scurvy, perhaps, I'm not sure if I would have been like, what weird mixture of emotions I might experience. So I might be impressed.
There are a couple of factors. I was kind of just generally not feeling well. My throat felt a little weird and stuff. I wasn't like sick, but I wasn't feeling it. I had stayed up for several nights in a row playing Disgaea D2 for review, and then because of insane obsession, so I hadn't slept and I was all fucked up.
Yes, we theorized as much.
I was still a little residually upset about the fucking parasite talk from 2 weeks ago.
Still?
It haunts me to this day. Also, what were you gonna say?
Nothing. I'm just, that's quite a button you got to press there.
It's a serious issue with me.
Apparently.
Also, I had a thing. It's it's a bit of a longer story. So, I was playing Disgaea D2. I don't remember what day it was. I think must have been Tuesday, because I think that's when the review code came in. So I'm playing it. I started in the afternoon, 6 o'clock or something, right?
Yeah.
So I'm playing. It's 5 a.m., right?
Okay.
Still playing. And a tree falls and takes out a power line. The transformer explodes. All the electricity goes out.
Was anyone around to hear it?
Yes, I heard it.
Oh, okay.
I could hit it with a rock from where I live. It was right there.
So nature tried to kill you again.
Or it wanted me to go to bed.
I don't know. That's a pretty unsubtle way to get somebody to go to bed. I mean, if that's if that's nature being like, "Hey, go to bed," I think it's more like, "Hey, go to bed so I can kill you in your sleep."
Either way, it didn't succeed, because I was sitting there, 5 o'clock in the morning, still all hopped up on Disgaea juices, whatever that means. I was just like, well, now what? So I took a walk over to my brother's apartment at 5 o'clock in the morning just to be a fucking trollish dick. And I fucking knocked on his door. And can you guess what happened?
His power went out?
No, he immediately jumped outside and began assaulting me. Just started fucking attacking me. It wasn't even that he didn't know it was me, like he thought I was trying to break in. It was because he knew it was me that he attacked me. And just immediately blew out my knee.
Really?
Yeah, I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I had reconstructive knee surgery after playing football in high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, just immediately my knee goes out, folds like a cheap card table. So I dragged myself home, and I was basically just kind of on the couch playing Disgaea for a couple of days just because I couldn't really move. And so when podcast rolled around, whenever, I was just like, everything is pain, and I don't want to do anything ever again. So hopefully James can just take my place, and I'm just going to go die. So that was last week.
Sounds like you had an exciting time.
It was interesting. I'm back. I have renewed energy for this. I haven't taken an episode off in really forever, really. There was the one time I showed up late, but
it's been a while.
That was the first time, I think, editing one that I just had no part in, and so it was funny just hearing you guys talk shit. Bunch of little bitches.
Yep. When you're not around, we have a tendency to get carried away with ourselves. You heard me last week. I was mouthing off about the erotic features of refrigerators longer than I thought humanly possible.
Yeah, actually, it was killing me when I was editing that. I really wanted to jump in. I was like,
Johnny, shut the fuck up!
Somebody stop him!
Well, now I have it in my notebook here that James does not stop me.
He's an enabler.
Yeah, absolutely an enabler. So when I want to run roughshod over all of the etiquette that you might find in a podcast, I know who I'm going with. So
yeah, I think you can tell because, I mean, my family communicates entirely in violence, as I think I've just demonstrated. So I have an innate no bullshit kind of policy. So when you start going on too long, I'm just like, nope, cutting in. Fuck this.
So what kind of violence was it that your brother perpetrated on you the other week? Was it like tender, loving violence, or was it like good-natured, sarcastic violence?
Have you ever?
Or we need to construct a stronger bond violence.
Have you ever seen Fist of the North Star?
So straight up, like, I want to fuck you up as fast as humanly possible kind of violence.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, all right.
That's my life. So probably not going to bother him at 5 a.m. ever again.
Yeah. I'm not sure I would bother him at any hour of the day. If his 5 o'clock in the morning response is like that, I'd feel a little shifty about his 2 o'clock in the morning response.
It's pretty funny. I mean, people really don't notice it, but all of my front teeth are chipped from fistfights with him.
Mm-hmm.
From just over the years. Just like, I'm lucky it's not worse, because then I'd be like straight fucking hillbilly.
Yep. Yeah. Coming from Florida, that's a danger.
It's an occupational hazard of being from the South.
I'm afraid so. Does your brother have, like, peak violent hours? Are there, like, some hours where he's more violent than others?
Not that I know of. He's pretty much just constantly roid raged.
Just pumping the violence out 24/7? Just banging that gong?
Yeah, you know how, like, jocks in, like, 80s movies were, like, just total dicks for no reason?
Yep.
That's pretty much him.
That's Tyler Yorsky?
Yep. I mean, I kind of was like that for a while, but after the knee surgery, I was like, it's really less work to kind of just be a nerd. Like, I'm just going to go read books and play video games.
It is way less work. I mean, it's kind of, you know, as speaking as someone who does have, like, athleticism plays a pretty strong, like, component of my life, I got to say that, yeah. Like, if you're looking to maximize your time as being kind of relaxed and groovy, it's video games and books.
I shouldn't have talked shit about the fucking Bears the other week, though, because as soon as I brought up them being undefeated on the podcast, they went and lost 2 games in a row.
That's what happens.
I know.
As I understand it, at least anyways. I mean, you know, like, I don't really believe in sports superstitions where it's like, oh no, if you shave the mustache, then another man might touch a down.
What about the NHL playoff beard?
The NHL playoff beard, it used to be, as far as I'm concerned, like, you know, a kind of a respected tradition, but considering the way that the game has changed in the past, like, you know, 15 years or something like that, and how, like, the old grizzled brute is no longer the face of the NHL, and you have all these, like, 18 and 19-year-old kids that are, like, you know, they're fast and they're moving and they can score goals, and it's like that's the way the NHL gets played these days. Your NHL playoff beard looks less like an NHL playoff beard and more like an NHL light dusting of pubes on the face.
Did Ovechkin grow one out?
You know what? The only time I've ever seen Ovechkin with a beard, I am fain to call it even a beard.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's like perpetual baby face.
Yeah, and like Sidney Crosby, and I don't even know. You know, like these are just that's like the 2 names in hockey that I know that are outside the Vancouver Canucks, who I only know because really of my proximity to them. And the fact that they have a pair of identical twins playing on the team. And, like, I think that's kind of wacky that you have, like, 2 twins that made the NHL, and then, like, they play on exactly the same team. It's like, was that a package deal?
You have to imagine if they both went into the same line of work and one of them failed. Like, it would have been pretty awkward Thanksgiving dinner, so they kind of...
I think one of them is the captain right now, so the other one probably has a bit of a hard-on for, like, you know...
The Eli and Peyton Manning thing?
Maybe. I mean, if I was on a sports team with a with an identical twin, I would be like, hey, do you want to switch tonight?
See if anyone notices.
You be Johnny, and I will be Mitchell.
The last time me and my brother played football on the same team, we were playing. I guess it was like intramural. I don't know if you guys have that in Canada. I assume you do. But like, he knocked me the fuck out, like, head to head. Like, just hit me in the face as hard as he could.
Wait, you guys were on the same team, though?
We're playing intramural football, so it wasn't like it's not done by like age or anything. It's just a college organization. So
I'm aware of that, but
yeah,
you were on the same team.
See, that's the thing. That's how I remember it. But then again, I don't. Maybe my brain damage.
Perhaps suffering a concussion may have mixed those memories up a little bit. But if indeed you were on the same team, I think he needs to reread his football rule book.
No, I just think he thinks it's funny.
I suppose so. I didn't realize that humor was an important component of winning a football game.
It's not, but it is an important part of being a dick.
That would explain some of the halftime shows, though.
I still can't fucking believe the Black Eyed Peas shit they did at the Super Bowl. Did you suffer through that?
I only after the fact. I caught highlights. I think it's absolutely fantastic that when the Super Bowl comes around and you watch the highlight reel, it's all commercials and halftime.
Now that we've bored most of our audience with 10 minutes of sports talk, that's why they tune in.
Yeah, well, come for the sports, stay for the anti-Semitism.
I think it's like one of the few things we haven't touched on, like cannibalism, slavery.
Well, the Holocaust. Yeah, we've mentioned the Holocaust a couple of times.
Okay.
I mean, never, we haven't gone into grisly detail. We just kind of the Holocaust. So I assume that everybody infers that it's anti-Semitism. Although, there were a lot of people that got killed in the Holocaust. Maybe we just have a hate-on for gays.
Oh, we touch on gays all the time, literally and figuratively.
I touch as many gays as I possibly can. On gays. I touch on gays. Excuse me.
Wait, what did you think you said? In? Touch in gays?
I just said touch gays. I said touch as many gays as I can.
Okay. Our preposition confusion.
That's what happens when you get your head bashed in. Your prepositions get confused.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I feel old, Austin.
You are old.
I know, but now I'm
oh, okay.
feeling it, though. There's a difference between being something and feeling something. So I'm feeling old today. Feeling old. I didn't have a very good sleep last night. I woke up in the middle of the night. I thought maybe I was getting some acid reflux. I challenge you to find a 20-year-old man or a man in his 20s who has to talk to people about acid reflux. And then I had trouble getting back to sleep again, and at work and things like that. I just felt like I was surrounded by young people. You know what I can't stand these days? I cannot stand. I feel like I am of the last generation that actually can fully appreciate the value and fully respect bass.
Bass guitar?
No, just bass in general. Because these days, kids, they're all dropping bass everywhere. They're just picking it up, and they're dropping the bass. A lot of bass on the ground.
You're an idiot.
Yeah, and old. I'm an old idiot.
So you know how last week you were telling people to send their hate mail to Sean?
Did somebody actually get... Did he get hate mail?
He did. So I guess they CC'd me into it. But it was like... it was basically saying... I don't have it in front of me. But it was like... I was okay when you guys talked about the Holocaust. But when we started talking about Canada, that was too far. It's like, I can't believe you would allow this to happen, Sean. On BT. On the official podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, wow. I didn't think anybody would actually do that. I feel better now. I feel pretty good. That made my day. Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Clean Hands, the internet podcast dedicated to the soap dispenser industry. Today, on this episode of Clean Hands, we're going to be talking about the new lineup of touchless soap dispensers that are coming out for the autumn season of 2013. Some of them are really, really exciting. But before we get to that, special correspondent Austin Yorsky is going to deliver an investigative report for us entitled Foaming Dispensers. Are they for me? Austin?
What am I supposed to say about foaming soap. It's a rendered
No,
fat.
no, Austin. This is not a show about soap.
It's the dispenser I talk about.
This is a show about soap dispensers. Get with the fucking program.
How much is there actually a difference between dispensers? Aren't they all kind of the same mechanism? Like,
No!
what differentiates them?
Good God, man. If they were all the same, do you think we'd have a podcast dedicated to them?
You have a point there. That would be lame.
That would be absolutely lame. Nobody would listen to that. There'd be like one episode of it, and then it would probably fold. Like your knee.
Too soon. But, I mean, I assume that just every soap company makes their own branded dispensers, right? There's not like a bunch of firms that like all they do is make soap dispensers, right?
I thought you were a fucking investigative reporter on this. And now you come back to me and you haven't done shit? This is amateur hour, Austin. This is fucking amateur hour. I can't fucking work with this. This is...
I'm investigating it right now, bitch.
Here's my investigative report. Can anybody tell me what's going on? No. No, you can have a bunch of different soap dispensers that don't necessarily have the soap that belongs to that dispenser in it.
I mean, how much does the dispenser really do? It just holds the soap thing, right? It's not like any kind of special doodads.
Some dispensers they're like pump action. Some dispensers are like mechanical. Some dispensers
are digital.
Come out of a bag. Some of them are made of metal. Some of them are not.
Wait.
Some of them are built right into countertops. I don't want to blow your mind, like, too badly, but some of them are wall-mounted. Others come resting upon a horizontal surface.
You put a lot of thought into this. Were you just in the bathroom at work earlier today washing your hands and you're like, okay, I guess I'll talk about fucking soap.
Actually, I can't remember how this one came to me. I think I was watching a commercial. Because it really... The touchless soap dispensers kind of fucking bother me. That it's like, you get this company that's like, hey, wash your hands, you dirty son of a bitch, but don't touch the soap dispenser because it's the filthiest thing of all. And I'm like, okay, maybe it is filthy, because the only time anybody ever touches it is because they need to wash their hands. But let me tell you something, Lysol. I'm about to wash my hands. I don't care that I have to fucking touch your soap dispenser, because I am just about to clean my hands immediately afterwards.
That's true. If the soap is worth a damn, then it shouldn't matter, huh?
Precisely. So, like, how fucked up and germophobic has, like, Western culture become, where they're like, oh, I couldn't possibly touch the soap dispenser. I might have to wash my hands.
Well, yeah, that's like the whole, like, the idea that, like, all those those alcohol-based hand sanitizers are, like, causing super viruses because everyone's fucking squirting that shit everywhere. And
yeah.
Everything's building up an immunities to it, so the 0.01 bugs that survive are now like X-Men.
More or less, yeah. Well, no, because what you're doing essentially, all right, is it's not even that the bugs that survive are like fucking badass, like they survive the triclosan or whatever it is. The problem is that you are wiping out their competitors for food space. So, like, if you have a bunch of bacteria in a system, it's usually not that bad because most of the bacteria that's, like, anywhere in the world isn't harmful to the human body. We are bacteria-riddled meat bags.
We are leaky creatures.
Yeah. And the more antibacterial shit that you use, you're wiping out bacteria that doesn't go after us, but... it goes after additional food sources that bacteria that goes after us also feeds upon. So while you have these two bacteria competing for the same food source, you're keeping bad bacteria in check by, basically keeping this group of other bacteria around that doesn't harm you. And when you, try and wipe all that bacteria out, you give rise to strong bacteria that, builds resistance against antibiotics or, chemicals like triclosan that are sanitizers and things like that. And then you basically, level the food zone and let these bacteria into a fucking supermarket of your body and go, hey, eat everything, 'cause nobody's around. And then they can just, multiply unchecked because there are no competing bacteria trying to, eat the same shit.
The BT podcast, microorganism edition.
Well, my father, actually, bacteria killed my father. Bacteria killed my father. My father was killed by a bacteria known as Staphylococcus aureus, or Staph A, if you want to be all ooh, fucking Staph A. And it's kind of freaky because the thing about Staphylococcus aureus is that it's fucking everywhere. Apparently, just looking at the Wikipedia entry here, 20% of the human population are long-term carriers. It's on skin. It's in the nasal passages. It can cause things like pimples, and abscesses, just shit. But then it can kill you. And it killed my father, actually. Staphylococcus killed my father. And it's everywhere. But the thing is that it's when the human body is incapable of fighting it because you've got a compromised immune system, or, you're under stress, or you just kill a bunch of the other bacteria that, takes up the space that Staph A would invade. It's fucking party time, bitches, and just, eats everything.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who get, AIDS will die of, diseases from cats and stuff that have just everyone's always exposed to them if you have cats.
Yeah, toxoplasmosis I think is the big one.
Yeah, but then it's as soon as your immune system goes down, it's just suddenly you're easy pickings.
Yeah. So it's a thing, guys, and you avoid it by being exposed to smaller amounts of more benign bacteria. So you know what? Touch that soap dispenser. Put it in your mouth. Don't put it in your mouth.
You need to get just gross enough to build up a healthy immune system, but not too gross to overwhelm it or repel other people.
Yeah.
You need to maintain... There's a disgusting equilibrium that you need to find in your life. It's
true. And I mean, the world is it's honestly a pretty good measure for that, because the world is a fucking disgusting place. Just in general, grass, plants, fresh vegetables.
Just look at everything under a microscope and immediately just start vomiting.
It's pretty disgusting. The thing is that you've got to become comfortable with that. You have to be comfortable with how disgusting. I tweeted earlier this week where I was like, you know what, guys, we have to come to face with it. We have to come to grips with it. The human body is gross. It's disgusting. It's fluid producing. It smells. It's greasy. I mean, we've kind of created this false sort of what's the word I'm looking for? This false presentation, this false front for the human body, because we all do things like bathe, but it's honestly, in its natural state, in its don't put soap on that thing.
Just in the wild.
It's gross. It's gross, and it's hairy, and it's sticky, and it's ew.
We all can't be Taylor, some of us.
Yeah.
Are gifted in certain ways that perhaps that doesn't apply, but most of us, at least.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that we have to come to grips with that, and you gotta kind of love the disgusting. You gotta you gotta look at the human body, and you gotta be you know what? That might be a grilled cheese sandwich made with Kraft Singles with a fried egg on top, but god damn it, that is my grilled cheese sandwich with Kraft Singles that has a fried egg on top.
I think I'm going to call this episode Love the Disgusting, parentheses, put it in your mouth.
So yeah, you can take your cue for that equilibrium from the world around us, because the world is pretty disgusting. It's pretty gross. Like,
speaking of disgusting, gross, mucousy slime, have you heard about the latest Pokemon craze?
I have not, but you know what? Like, every time I hear that there's a latest Pokemon craze, it just seems to extend the last Pokemon craze. I'm pretty certain that we've only ever actually had one Pokemon craze, and it's lasted somewhere in the range of about 15 to 18 years.
Well, I mean, specifically, there's a thing that the Pokemon fandom is flipping out about right now.
Is this the Mega Snorlax?
No, I wish it was, though. No, it's, so right now, Pokemon X and Y aren't out yet, but stuff's leaking. Basically, everything's leaking, and Nintendo won't confirm any of it, but everyone's kind of, we figured it out. One of the Pokemon that leaked right now is called Goomy. It's a little like gross ball of slime, but it's dragon type, and it evolves into like progressively grosser and slimier dragons. And the Pokemon fandom's absolutely lost its shit. It fucking loves it. There's already a Goomy subreddit dedicated to just this one Pokemon. I'm gonna put a picture in the chat so you can see Goomy in its evolved forms.
That's Goomy?
Yep, the little one is Goomy.
Yeah.
And then there's the other two one that evolves into. They're all just slimy, gross, drippy little dragons. They have like stupid, cute anime faces, and it's just the best. It's just the best thing that's ever happened.
I don't understand Pokemon. I mean, I get it in theory, like it's like the same thing that, I don't know, when I'm confronted with things like the pop music or television shows about sexy werewolves. I'm like, maybe I'm missing a chromosome or something that everybody else has. Or maybe I've got an extra one that nobody else does.
I feel like we all have that kind of, like, there's a series or something that we just don't quite get. You just don't quite, I mean, you can kind of clinically see Pokemon and be like...
I can understand Pokemon as a concept. I can look at it from afar and go, that is a pretty damn smart idea. Because, I mean, like, as far as I'm concerned, I look at it and I see Transformers. That's what I see. I see, like, a weird kind of like a biological kind of, cutesy pet-based kind of Transformers. And I'm like, I get that. But then I'm like, why aren't you just fucking, like, awesome about Transformers? Because that thing is a giant robot that transforms into a jet that shoots lasers.
Well, Transformers is like awesome things transforming into awesome things. Pokemon is like cute things turning into awesome things. So you get twice the demographic appeal. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
You get the age and the gender kind of overlap there. I think doubles Pokemon's selling potential.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
okay, I get the gender overlap. Yeah, I see that.
So that's the thing with Pokemon. But that's the way I feel about Monster Hunter. I'm like, I see. You gotta plan carefully. You gotta get all this stuff together. You gotta make your own equipment. You gotta be smart about your battles. And it's just like, you put that controller in my hand, and I'm like, I would rather be doing anything else.
The way you just described it to me, I'm like, hey, let's go play The Witcher 2 again.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who just don't get The Witcher. I think Robert, the BT writer Robert G, said that he would like give The Witcher 2 like a 6 if he reviewed it. And I'm like,
I think Robert G can go straight to fucking hell.
Well, I was gonna say, and that's why you're not allowed to review The Witcher 3, huh?
Jesus Christ. What a fuck knob.
Fuck knob. But, yeah, I mean, certain series just don't click with certain people. What are you going to do? I think there's something interesting to be said about whether or not you should always get, like, fans of series to review them. Because, I mean, for example, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. 9s and 10s across the board. But there was a couple outliers. Like, I saw some places that were more critical. And people were like, this person obviously doesn't like Grand Theft Auto. Why are they even reviewing it?
Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. Years ago, I remember reading a review for, I can't recall what game it was, but it was based in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. And the very first thing that the guy wrote was, now, to be honest, I hate Dungeons & Dragons. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be reading the rest of this review then.
Well, I think that's a predominant kind of response. But I think there's something to be said, something at least intellectually interesting about getting a newcomers or even a detractors take on it, because it's like there's thousands of reviews from fan perspective. Those, they're dime a dozen. We're rolling in them. But to see kind of non-fan opinions is useful to people who aren't already fans. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can be like, this new Pokemon, here's what it adds, here's what it refines. But if someone's like, I don't know what Pokemon is, my review isn't going to be helpful.
Yeah, and that kind of damage gets done like way more in prolonged franchises, absolutely. Like every time I've ever been forced to review a game or look at a game that has any number in the title above 2, it's like you might as well just stop talking about what kind of game it is, because everybody knows already.
Well, there's a disparity. You're going to get people who are like, okay, hurry up, I already know that. Like,
could you imagine somebody being like, Doom 4 is a first-person shooter in the seemingly long-running franchise from developer id Software? It's like,
yeah. But that's the thing. I think there's room on the internet for reviews from all kinds of people and from all kinds of perspectives, but it seems that the majority of readers are hostile to non-fan reviews.
Yeah, that is the point where it crosses over to the other side to me. That's where I get a little bit weirded out, Like I said, I was reading this article about a Dungeons and Dragons game, and I, myself, surprise of surprises, played a large amount of Dungeons and Dragons games when I was a young man, because I had so many friends. Which is actually a lie, because I made a lot of friends through Dungeons & Dragons. In your face. But, and it just, at that point in time, I realized that anything that he was going to be writing on the subject wasn't going to be valuable to me. I wasn't dismissing his opinion. I wasn't saying, well, what the fuck, dude? You have no right to talk about Dungeons & Dragons because you hate Dungeons & Dragons, so shut your fucking mouth up when Dungeons & Dragons walks in the room and sit down in the corner.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine for you to be like, well, I could probably find better information for myself elsewhere. But to me, that's not the reaction I'm seeing. I'm seeing people saying, why did you even bother? Why are you even trying to engage with this content if you aren't coming from where I am? Like, it's a really kind of selfish. And it's not just readers and commenters. I'm saying journalists saying that about each other. Like, I'm much more involved in kind of the journalist scene than sometimes I feel like I should be, because it kind of angers me sometimes.
Well, it's there's something unusually weird about video games journalism as opposed to like other entertainment media journalism. Insofar as that, like, it seems that all of the problems that the fan base is a perpetuator of is a problem within the actual games journalism scene. Like, every time I ever watch a press conference, that's like Sony, Microsoft, whatever, something, and they announce like the next Call of Duty, and you got a room full of, and I'm going to use air quotes here, professionals, and they're like, Call of Duty 12, shoot them in the eye, and then you hear this room go, woo! As if they've had like one too many Bellinis.
Yeah, that's what we call the enthusiast press.
Yes.
And we're not exempt from that. We get hyped about things that if we were quote unquote professionals, we probably shouldn't be. But that's why I don't really like to call myself a journalist.
I can't for the life of me imagine anything in this world that would make me seriously want to make that noise.
Oh, Johnny. You make weirder noises every week.
I make lots of weird noises, not always seriously. In fact, most times I would say not seriously at all, But if I don't know, if fucking like Iron Man kicked my front door down right now and was like, hey, I got you this Iron Man suit. You should put it on and be a superhero. By the way, here's $1.5 billion. Oh, and would you like to be the first man on Mars? I wouldn't be like,
What if he told you could only get that stuff if you made that noise?
You see, I would make the noise, but not particularly seriously. I'd be like,
you just like rolling your eyes.
I'd be like, I'll make the noise, asshole. Just watch me make the noise.
That actually reminds me. Someone on Twitter was asking me, because I think I was talking about the Beyond Two Souls embargo or something, and it came up, and someone was asking me about, like, what's the most, like, draconian embargo restrictions that I've ever heard about. And it's interesting, because, I mean, I've been doing this for, like, 2 or 3 years, and I mean, it's mostly been reasonable, but the recent reviews of Pokemon X and Y, which this is all tying together beautifully, they just came out last week, and though if you read a review of Pokemon X and Y this past week, you did not read a review of Pokemon X and Y, because we are not allowed to talk about anything. You have to understand that Nintendo basically wrote those reviews for us. They said you can't say this, you can't reveal any Pokemon we haven't talked about, you can't even say how many, you can't even give a number of how many new Pokemon there are, you can't ballpark it, you can't reveal this feature. Actually the only outlet I saw that even came close to being forthright about that was Kotaku, which is weird because Kotaku used to be like the National Enquirer of gaming journalism, but they, at the bottom of theirs, they basically said the real review is coming out when the game comes out. This is just kind of an impressions thing. But like most people just put it up as their review and didn't even say, like, by the way, these are basically press releases. Like, I can see why people don't trust reviews, because if you don't know what's going on and then the curtain gets pulled back, sometimes it feels like you're being duped. And Nintendo is probably the worst offender in that. I remember the Super Mario 3D Land reviews. We were not allowed to mention the second world that unlocks when you beat the game, which is half of the content. So, I mean, I got called out on that in my review. People were like, "Why didn't you mention, the other half of the game? Like, there's a whole other part here." And I'm like, "I know. We literally were not legally allowed to mention it. Like, it's like the selling feature of the game. It's like the thing that makes it worth buying. We weren't allowed to even allude to its existence."
Wow, that is actually... I mean, I've never had to deal with that. I've never had to deal with Nintendo embargoes. The worst that I get, like, as one of the, like, PC writers on the site, the worst embargo that I get is, you're not allowed to talk about this until the afternoon of the day after the game gets released. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be very good, is it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's plot things. Once again, Nintendo's, with Kid Icarus, they said you cannot say that there's, this whole third act, after this certain point, because there's a kind of the game, like, the credits start rolling, and it's like, just kidding, there's way more game left. Like, it does that too. We weren't allowed to talk about that. And it's like, if you're trying to, like, keep spoilers on the down low, I can kind of understand. But it's like, if you just want to hide the fact that there's only 70 new Pokemon instead of like 100 or 120 like there usually is, which is the case with X and Y, they're basically trying to keep that quiet. That's not quite as noble. And like another example, that non-Nintendo, is Konami with Metal Gear Solid 4. They were saying that people weren't allowed to talk about how basically like half the game was cutscenes. And I know a couple outlets just straight up said, like, we can't write this review without mentioning that. It's kind of the most important thing. So I know a couple of different sites basically said, no, sorry, we can't agree to that. We'll wait till it comes out to review it then. So there are some stories, but nothing that's, like, scandalous, just kind of stuff that's like, really? It's kind of dumb, guys.
Yeah, kind of dumb.
The real, like, review scandals are, like, the Kane and Lynch thing and...
Oh, yeah.
The Duke Nukem thing. You remember the PR agency?
I mean, that's not really... I mean, that is still...
It's a PR scandal.
It's a PR scandal more than anything else. Or, I will website as on the internet.
that was a PR scandal from that was a peripheral company. It wasn't even a gaming...
I recognize that, but still, that man will website as on the internet. Does he ever...
I'm surprised we aren't saying that more frequently. I could have sworn that was going to catch on.
I try and dust it off and bring it out like every few weeks or something like that. It's something that I want to, that's like a special memory to me right there. It's like taking out a photo and being like, those were the good times. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if there are any other good embargo or stories or anything. I remember with the Saints Row embargo, Saints Row 4, Aubrey Norris was like, you can tell people you're reviewing it, because why would we even not let you do that? Which was like a reference to sometimes companies do say, like, don't mention that you're reviewing it on social media yet. And it's like, why? Like, literally, what's the point? I guess.
So that people can't... I'm like, the embargo thing is kind of funny too, because I've had a couple of people ask me like about the nature of like embargoes and things like that, and like what you're exactly allowed to talk about, and it's kind of like, well, in a professional setting where you work in an office and perhaps there are a number of other people who also work there reviewing video games, it's not as though you have these, like, vaults that reviewers descend into that have no windows and, like, the door locks only from the inside. It's weird how, the images, like, the impressions of the industry kind of get this, like, that image where it's like, yes, you may review Pokemon X and Y, but first you must cross the chasm of lone despair. Once upon the other side, then you must do battle with the great dragon of PR. You may only use these weapons. No weapons like them, these weapons alone.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you have to sign, like, non-disclosure agreements, which are, like, legally binding embargoes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, very much more specifically, but most companies are pretty chill.
Even if, like, when you work at companies, they're very big on, like, signing non-disclosure agreements and things like that. Like, my brother used to work at Electronic Arts, and they non-disclosure agreemented his ass into the stratosphere.
I imagine. I mean, a lot of it's about, image control. You don't want people saying things about your products that you can't spin a certain way, or you don't have time to, like, plan a spin if you know it's going to turn out a certain way because, like, your product is either better or worse than people expected it to be.
Because as we all know, companies like Activision and Electronic Arts and Microsoft have never failed at the PR spin.
Oh, gosh. Hold that thought, because I think we'll briefly touch on the Microsoft thing. I don't want to spend all day on it, but just briefly. But yeah, I mean, but most companies are pretty cool. Like, I don't want to give the impression that, like, everyone is, like, out of their tiny little minds about it. Like,
no, Aubrey Norris is my heroine. I have not yet had the chance to work with her, but she is absolutely my PR heroine.
There's a lot of good people.
When I go to karaoke and I sing Bonnie Raitt's I Need a Hero, I imagine that I'm singing to Aubrey Norris.
And if someone ever links this to her, it'll be really creepy when she hears that.
Only if she's never actually heard me sing karaoke, I Need a Hero. I'm holding out for a hero till the morning light. She's got to be strong, and she's got to be fast. And I would really rather prefer it if her name were Aubrey Norris.
All right, we're descending into creepy territory. Do you want to linger on this topic anymore, or you want to move on?
No, I'm pretty clear. I think, general disdain is the sandwich flavor right now.
All right, so yeah, I guess we'll come back around to the fucking Microsoft thing. That's your.
Speaking of PR spin,
that's your fucking news blurb for the day. Let's hit it.
That's
Quit
pretty
it real
much
quick.
it. I mean, there's really not much else to say. Microsoft manages to continue its proud and consistent tradition of managing to insert its entire foot into its mouth.
At this point, it's like jackhammering its foot in and out of its mouth, just
and the funny thing is that it's like we shouldn't be surprised. Nobody should fucking be surprised.
It's not even like at first it was like kind of fun. We're like, oh man, these scandals are piling up. Now I'm just fucking tired of it. I don't want any more of it. I want them to get their shit together and be good, so we can be like, oh man, I'm surprised at how they've turned this around.
The funny thing about it is that they could have very easily just shut up about this.
Well, no, they couldn't, because they're trying to sell two messages. They're trying to sell to consumers that their product is the best and all your data is safe. And they're trying to sell to advertisers that their product is going to break new ground in stealing our information and selling it to them.
Yeah.
You can't. Right. Those two messages don't fucking jive. So it was never possible for them to come out ahead on this.
I guess there must come a point in time where, like, if the guy who's getting the advertiser pitch goes, wait a fucking minute, that's me too. Like that's the only. He's like, wow, that sounds really profitable and amazing, and an invasion of privacy. And I guess I better not buy one of these X-Bones, or as I'm going to be calling it this week, because I miss doing this. I do.
Although Microsoft has embraced the X-Bone name, I don't know if you've been reading. At first, they were upset about it. They thought it was disrespectful, but now they're like, whatever, we'll embrace it. So
good for them. Good for them. This week, we're going to call it the Microsoft Ice Skating Dirt Luge.
If you say so.
No, Ice Capades. We'll call it the Ice Capades Dirt Luge. There we go. The Microsoft Ice Capades Dirt Luge. So what we are specifically referring to this week is that Microsoft announced that the inbuilt Kinect in the Microsoft Ice Capades Dirt Luge is going to be a shining beacon of directed advertising. At least that was like the positive spin. That was the Microsoft PR spin where it's like, yeah, all the things that we're going to try and sell you are going to be tailored to your tastes in a way you've never seen them before. And then I guess the inference was typically made that means that the Kinect is going to be rather specifically gathering information from the people using it, to which I imagine the Microsoft PR employee was forced to respond with a kind of a meek, yeah, I guess.
Well, I mean, there was like several different events going on here. One was there was like a advertising conference or something. There was like a specific event where they were talking about advertising. Like that was the crowd they were pandering to at the time. So it was like they were excited about the potential of this platform. They were saying, it's going to be this new frontier of targeted advertising, and everyone should get psyched about it. But then when the consumers found out about it, they had to, of course, try to mitigate that disaster by saying that, your privacy is really important to us, and we're not going to take any information you don't want, although you're going to have to sign our end-user license agreement that gives us access to everything to use our products, obviously. So don't worry about it.
It kind of seems to me that they're almost making the Kinect into, like, the world's greatest cold reader.
Like...
Where it's like, you sit down and you turn it on and it's like, oh, hey, Austin, do you feel like watching a movie? Do you want to watch a crime movie? You don't look like you want to watch a crime movie. You look kind of sad actually right now. Do you want to watch a romantic comedy? No, you do. Do you want to watch a movie? You don't want to watch a movie? How about some music? Do you want to listen to some music? I'm getting the sense that you want to listen to something upbeat music. I'm getting a little response from you. Yeah, I feel upbeat music. You want, but you want more than that, don't you? You want Dance Dance Revolution. We're gonna play Dance Dance Revolution.
Of course, that's infinitely slower and more obtuse than the fucking old Xbox dashboard design where you could just click on what you wanted.
I would think that would be kind of funny, actually. That would
just watching it fumble.
Yeah, like trying to figure out what it is that you want. Can I order you a pizza? You don't want pizza, okay? All right, you feel like you want Asian. I'm sensing Asian. Is it Indo-Asian? Do you want Indian food? I can order. No, you don't want. You want Japanese. You want Japanese food, don't you? Be like, actually, I think I just kind of have heartburn.
I just wanted to play Halo, Xbox. Don't make this weird.
Please, Xbox, please. Austin, tell me about your father. What?
Jesus. Yeah, it's going to get straight 2001: A Space Odyssey very quickly.
That would be kind of awesome, but also creepy. It'd be awesome because I don't have plans to get one, but it'd be creepy if, like,
you want to read the news reports.
Wouldn't it be fucking strange, like, walking into your buddy's, like, living room or something, and then his Xbox recognizes you?
Hello, Johnny.
Welcome
I've been
back,
waiting
Johnny.
for you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Stay back, Microsoft Ice Capades Dirt Luge.
Oh, that shouldn't be so funny, but it is. Fuck that. Let's move on. Square Enix also fucking talking shit. They always say, next time, guys. Next time we're going to figure this stuff out. We're going to start making money. We're going to stop sucking giant donkey balls. And then they never do.
Every every time they open their mouths, it's like at this point in time, I start reading a statement that they've made, and all I hear is Dorothy singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" in Wizard of Oz.
It has to be.
Where they're like, "There's a promised land somewhere, and we're gonna get there," and I'm like, "Oh, just stop it."
I have to imagine it's all show for the stockholders because they seem to be still, even with all the change ups, losing money. So I can only imagine that they have to keep releasing these statements to make it look like they're doing something.
Yeah, it's all dog and pony show.
Because they announced a quote unquote new entry in the Sleeping Dogs universe, which is weird.
Triad Wars.
Well, Sleeping Dogs is based in, reality. So, the Sleeping Dogs universe is technically anything that takes place on Earth with humans. It's not exactly it has a unique lore and setting. It's just...
Wouldn't it be really funny if it was, Sleeping Dogs 2, Duluth, Minnesota?
Yeah, it's fucking Fargo.
That'd be kind of funny.
That'd be great.
Right, you're going to be our best undercover cop. So here, put your parka on. We're going to make sure you get your badge off there. And you're from out of town. Can you give me your best New York accent? Hey, forget about it. That's good.
Pretty much, yeah. The Sleeping Dogs universe is not a thing. You've only made one game. You haven't established a canon.
Now I really want to play an open world game based on a Coen Brothers movie.
I know, right? The next Grand Theft Auto should be set in Miller's Crossing.
That would be pretty fantastic. Although I was thinking A Serious Man, because that would be weird.
That would be really weird. It's just a teacher dissatisfied with life, and then suddenly fucking carjacking is in the background.
Well, I think, except the problem is, Serious Man is actually based on the story of Job, right?
Yes, it's very heavy on Old Testament.
Yeah. So instead of it being like Grand Theft Auto, it would be like your car got stolen. The open world game of A Serious Man would be all of the crazy awesome things that happen in Grand Theft Auto just keep happening to you.
Exactly. It's like how Trevor is supposed to represent the average GTA player who's just a psychopath. This game just represents the average bystander in GTA who's just mercilessly just destroyed by the events going on around them.
I always wanted to make a short film called the world's unluckiest action star, about this guy who always seems to be attracted or appears in the middle of these giant action movies that happen around him.
John McClane syndrome.
Not John McClane, because John McClane is an action hero. This guy just trying to go about his business has action movies erupt around him. And guys shooting bad guys, and he's just trying to get to the fucking grocery store. He's trying to get out with some eggs, some flour, and some milk so he can make a cake for his daughter's birthday or something like that. And it over the course of a week, it happens to him 4 or 5 times. You just see these huge sweeping action sequences just run in and then run out, and he's like, "What the fuck?"
That sounds like something Edgar Wright would direct.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, bringing it back to Square Enix real quick. Sorry to bring the video games back into it, but I just want to finish this thought. With Nosgoth, are you aware of this? The multiplayer shooter based on Legacy of Kain. When I hear, what is this game called? Triad Wars?
Yeah.
When I hear Triad Wars, I think MOBA, or I think Team Fortress knockoff. I think multiplayer, free-to-play, just tangentially related. I'm not getting excited about this, and it seems pretty consistent with Square Enix's MO to just kind of completely miss the point of their own property and waste a bunch of money. That's all they do. They
are so fucking late to the party.
Exactly. Subscription MMOs are still a thing, right, guys?
And fucking Nosgoth.
Oh God.
How do you guys feel about team-based free-to-play action games?
Who is that game for? The only people who remember Legacy of Kain do not want a multiplayer third-person shooter thing.
It's for nobody. It is It is for nobody, because you get people like me that are like, wow, like, I wish we get another Legacy of Kain game. And then they're like, you asked for it. I'm like, I did. They're like, you've got it. I'm like, I do. They're like, multiplayer Legacy of Kain game with no plot. I'm like, I didn't ask for that, nor do I want it.
I can only imagine how that came down. It's like, look, we need to get on this fucking gravy train. It's leaving the station. Even though, if we were releasing right now, it would be too late. So you can only imagine how far we have to go in development.
Well, it was going to be a single-player game. They were making another Legacy of Kain game, and then they axed the single-player, and they decided they had all these assets, so they might as well make a free-to-play thing out of it. And I'm sorry, if it's not for the fans of Legacy of Kain, which is obviously not, because, like you said, they don't seem to understand the power in that IP of, the
crazy-ass story.
Crazy story, the florid language, the fucking, really obtuse setting, And then they're like, oh, well, maybe we can pull some of the free-to-play audience. It's like, no, I'm sorry, because guess what? All those people are busy playing other games for free.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. By the time you have decided to knock off something, it's no longer the new hotness. The market moves so fast. It was like MMOs one day, and then it's mobile, and now it's MOBAs. So now that your MOBA is in development, by the time it comes out, MOBAs aren't going to be cool anymore.
Yeah.
And Square Enix just seems completely unwilling to commit to anything that makes any sense, to me at least. I know things they make still have their fans. So, Final Fantasy XIV is supposed to be good. James was on here last week. He likes it. So, I mean, it only took them 2 times to make the game the right way, apparently.
Yeah.
But
although they are making another Deus Ex, so...
Yeah, but...
They're making a bunch of other Deus Ex stuff, too.
True. I don't have a problem with that stuff, the Deus Ex universe, quote-unquote, as long as the main, console/PC installment is good.
And that's what they're, that's what I'm saying, is that they're doing that, and I'm like, yeah, do that. And then they're like, but we're doing all these other Deus Ex things. I'm like, I don't care about those.
But, I mean, I'm sure...
I think I would.
Well, I'm sure they have the facts and figures in front of them. I'm sure their accountants tell them that the AAA stuff is a gamble. But
and I'm sure that when they leave the house in the morning, their wives go, don't worry, honey, I would love you even if you didn't have a job.
Well, the iOS stuff is a much smaller risk, man. If the Deus Ex Expanded Universe stuff fails, their stock doesn't plummet. People don't, get put on the chopping block. They can kind of just write it off. But if it makes it, if it's successful, then pays the bills, keeps the lights on. I don't know. I'm much more worried about things like Nosgoth, which seem to be completely missing the point and wasting time and resources and a license and just kind of completely pointless.
It's missing 5 points.
There's a whole field of points just waving in the breeze, and they're not even in the right field.
It has missed all of them, almost to the point where I'm beginning to think it was intentional.
They're just trolling with millions of dollars.
Fucking, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's conceivable.
But yeah, the news story in a nutshell was some Square Enix guy said that they're reforming as fast as they can. They have to right now. And then there was, the stuff about Deus Ex Universe. So their quote-unquote new business strategy is coming into focus. And
It was basically corporate speak of this guy going, don't worry, I got this.
Hold my beer, I got this.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we'll see where it goes. I spent a lot of this last week procrastinating playing Final Fantasy 13 too. It was sitting there and I was like, I should really be doing that. But I'd rather tear my toenails out with a fucking pair of pliers. So that's where I am with that company right now. I'll get around to that eventually, but I found any excuse not to do that.
I think that's a pretty good segue, though, into what you used as an excuse to not do that.
Do you want to hear more about Disgaea D2? I know you've never played one of those, and my review is up. Is there anything else to be said about that? I could go on.
You go right ahead. I'm sure the listeners will be entranced by your deep understanding of this game that kept you awake for days.
It's really good, guys. I've said before that I love Disgaea, and I think I recently was going back and playing some of the old ones to get ready for this one. So I was all read up and ready, and it's good. It comes out in like 3 hours in North America. It's already out in Europe, so you should get it if you're even slightly interested in the series. It's the first direct sequel. It's a continuation of the original game with all those characters. They come back. It's light humor, lots of jokes, stupid sex comedy, demons, and deep strategy. There's a lot of improvements. I mean, it's all there in the review. Actually, the thing I think I want to talk about is, I at least circle back to what we talked about earlier, is about reviews from fan perspective, because I was reading Disgaea D2 reviews after mine went live. I was like one of the first because I was
obsessive compulsive.
I played a lot of it, and I was reading other reviews afterwards, and it seemed like some people, like, it got 7s, 8s, 9s. Everyone liked it, but I was kind of getting that feeling as like these people don't understand why it's as good as it is. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you can ride the the monsters now. Like, that's cool, and it's like, yeah, it's cool, but like, you don't quite grasp. It doesn't seem like you grasp or are able to articulate the strategic possibilities that opens up, or like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I want you to like this in a certain way. It seems like you're only grasping just the cursory kind of surface level of it. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
If someone was like reviewing The Witcher and they're like, you can use 2 swords, that's twice as many as 1 sword.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, technically that is correct. But stuff like that was bothering me, and it's like, it doesn't make my review better. It's just, I worry about game journalism sometimes, game reviewing, and like where it's going, and sometimes it feels like everything's really surface. Meh.
That makes me sad.
I don't know, man. I don't know how many hours we're supposed to expect people to put into these before they put a review out. Like, I always have this problem when I review sports games. It's like, there's no end,
Yeah, when are you done?
So I basically just play until I stop noticing things, and it's like, sometimes it's 5 hours, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 20. It's like, there's no standard, and I have no idea what anyone else does, so I kind of just do what feels right. But it's like, sometimes you get that feeling. It's like, does everyone know something I don't know? What are the rules here, Johnny?
There are none. It's a barren wasteland of anarchy, where every man struggles to get his own opinion out before the other one.
Oh yeah, it's a race. I think one of the things that was funny was I think out of my like 2,000 word review, I put like one sentence in there talking about how they took off some of Etna's clothes, and that's all anyone wanted to talk about in the comments. Fucking A, man. She was wearing... Yes, Etna from Disgaea. She was wearing like pants and 2 belts, and now she's just wearing 1 belt. Basically, there's just 1 strip of leather keeping her fucking labias from flapping in the breeze. That's it.
So that means by the time we get to Disgaea D7, she'll be completely naked.
No, D7, that's like skeleton.
Okay, all right. That's when we're actually getting down to like the nervous system and shit like that.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a fucking fan art image I want to see from you guys.
Don't bait them.
I will pay money for that. That's the best. Dude, my favorite thing about this job is like fan art and shit. I want to frame that one that someone did of Shodanamu. Hang that over my mantle.
That one was pretty fucking amazing.
So, yeah. I mean, Disgaea is great. You should play it if you aren't already into the series. I don't know. There's probably no help for you anyway, so whatever. Also, Grand Theft Auto Online.
Ooh, that's a thing.
Yeah. So, when it supposedly went online the first, I got in for like 10 minutes. Like, I got booted up the character creator. I made Kinsey from Saints Row. That was my Grand Theft Auto Online character. Like, I called her Kinsey. She looked exactly like her. Which shows you where my priorities lay.
Yep.
As far as like series allegiance goes, if that's such a thing. But yeah, it crashed pretty much immediately after that. I tried it again and again throughout the week. I got like 10, 15 hours of it in. I've been kind of debating myself whether or not I should do a proper review of it, because it's a free update to a game I've already reviewed. So it's like, do I go back and update that review with like a new score? Or do I do a separate one? How do you score a free game? Like, all these quandaries. I'm not really sure where to go with it. Do you have any thoughts? Do you think I should do like a full like pros cons scored review? Like
I don't know if it's I honestly don't know if it's really worth a whole review unto itself, because presumably it will bear some kind of similarity to Grand Theft Auto 5.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I mean, you know my problems with Grand Theft Auto 5, but
Yeah.
I actually like the online, like what I've played of it, and it kind of casts the single player campaign in a new light. It almost makes me feel like that online was the game they wanted to make, but they knew that there would be a backlash if they made Grand Theft Auto online only. So they kind of threw together a single player campaign in the city they built for online. So it's like, they're like, okay, we need to focus on the city. The city is the most important aspect. Let's make it huge and full of stuff to do, right? Priority one. Now, let's throw a couple, like your standard missions in the game. Let's put some cutscenes in there with like some stereotypical caricatures. We'll call that the story. And then once we have all the bugs ironed out, we'll release the thing where we actually let everyone run free in the city. It's like the single player is a extended tutorial for the multiplayer.
It would not be the first time that a development studio decided to follow that tack.
It makes a lot more sense than the SimCity approach, I'll tell you that.
Yes.
And I mean, people were comparing them because obviously they didn't work on launch.
It's a false comparison. You can't even. It's not. No.
I understand why you would take that approach. You're like, this online thing didn't work on day one. I paid money for it. Like, I'm with you to that point, but afterwards it goes completely off in different directions. It's like there's 50 hours of single player stuff in Grand Theft Auto. There's 0 in SimCity. Yeah. So that's one thing entirely. And also the base SimCity game was apparently kind of cramped and underwhelming, while, base Grand Theft Auto is like still
pretty
dumb.
Expansive and just...
Yeah, it's just taking ramps in your cars and shooting people. It's, it's the same kind of fun people have been having for years with the basic tools.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grand Theft Auto Online is basically just the single player without the shitty story and plus your friends. So it's like if you want to do races or death matches or play tennis or golf or, fly blimps into buildings, just everything you can do that was pretty fun in single player, but now it's a little bit more fun because your friends are there. And so it's like if the single player was like a 7, I guess that makes the multiplayer like an 8 when it works. But the fact that it doesn't work a lot of the time, it's like, does that affect the score?
So don't score it. Don't. Presumably, I mean, it's going to, they're going to fix their fucking problems, because if they don't, then their mothers will be very upset with those young men.
But that's the quandary of modern gaming, isn't it? It's like, do you review day one? What after like the 7 patches? It's a completely different experience. Do you need a second review? Do you update the first one? How do you even? There's no precedent, and I think a lot of different readers have different expectations and desires, and you can't meet all of them.
I think it's kind of unfortunate that because, again, getting back to the subject of games journalism here, is that in order for games journalism to be able to drive itself as a medium, it's like after the game has become released, it's almost as though having a review doesn't factor in. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, the majority of sales are on day one, so if you don't have a pre-release review, you're losing, most of your viewership and your cultural impact.
Yeah.
So it's out in the wild. I mean, people will, I guess, read impressions and reviews, but it's not going to be the same as if you did it before release or at launch or something like that. So
it occurs to me that after launch, pretty much the best way to determine whether or not you're interested in a game is simply through discussion.
Or like let's plays or shit like that.
Yeah, there's a deep well that you can pretty much dig through to decide if you want something 3 months after it's hit the market.
But yeah, it doesn't make our jobs any easier, because I know there's plenty of people who are like, listen, they asked for money when it was like this, so this is how you need to review it. And other people are like, games are not the static things they once were. They're evolving. They're platforms now. You got to get with the times. And it's like, I can't do both of those.
No, and I mean, as people who basically run reviews as jobs, essentially, we have a limited amount of time that we can dedicate to things that we've already spent however many hours going through.
Yeah, I mean, I put like 50 into the single player and like 15 into the multi, so it's 65 hours of Grand Theft Auto, and I still don't feel like I'm any kind of expert in it.
Yeah. I mean, ever since I started writing for Blistered Thumbs, I have to say that the amount of time that I allocate to clearing my back catalog is tiny.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a losing battle.
Yeah, I don't get to play retro games. If a game is like older than 2 months or 3 months or something like that, it goes on a back burner, and it's like I'll get to it when I have time.
I was explaining this to someone the other day. I was like, Grand Theft Auto Online is like a bunch of really okay versions of other games. It's like the racing is good, but it's not as good as like Need for Speed or Forza or Gran Turismo. And it's like the shooting is good, but it's not like Gears or Call of Duty or anything. And it's like the heists are good, but they're not Payday. It's like it has so many things, but none of them are as good as the competition. It's just that they're all in one place.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Pretty much.
Except perhaps the open world game, because
just chilling out in the city with friends, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like if I wanted to just chill out with some friends, I would just go over to their place, I guess.
But
I don't
then
know.
You might get assaulted and have your knee blown out.
Well, I don't think that's not a friend. That's unfortunate.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I thought it was a friendly beating that you were getting.
It's hard to tell sometimes. But no, that's the thing though. My brother really likes Grand Theft Auto 5. He thinks it's great. He loves Trevor. He just wants to be Trevor when he grows up. He has already grown up. He's like 20. But
I wouldn't advise that.
I said before that I think Trevor is good for a laugh, but he seems to be resonating with people pretty strongly. So,
do you find that kind of disturbing? I find that kind of disturbing.
I was kind of operating under the assumption that most human beings are kind of terrible to begin with, so it doesn't really come as any kind of disturbing revelation to me. Maybe that they're so open and just honest with it. They're like, yeah, I would eat human flesh if given the opportunity. And it's like, probably shouldn't have said that out loud.
Especially not in church.
I'm not making that mistake again.
Dang it. I always pick the wrong time for these.
But yeah, I mean, as a value package goes, Grand Theft Auto 5 is pretty sweet. It's a lot of hours of gameplay. And if you have, presumably, there's going to be a thriving community for years to come. So
until, the Microsoft Ice Capades Dirt Luge and the PS4 come out.
Well, I assume we're going to get next-gen versions and expansions.
Probably. I know, I'm just being cynical.
Yeah. I don't know how much more I have to say about that. I guess people want to ask questions if they have anything specific they want brought up. I mean, last point here is a lot of it's still not implemented. Like, they started out with just the basics. It's like, drive around, hold up stores, shoot.
It's pretty beta right now. It's early access.
It's a little past beta. It's like gamma. I don't know. It's functional. It's kind of ugly. Like there's a lot of shitty like textures and stuff that aren't in the single player. I guess it's because when it comes down to smoothness of experience and visuals, the choice is clear.
I'm kind of curious. Like just can you go anywhere in the city?
Pretty much, yeah.
Or are you tethered to your friends? Do you have to maintain a distance to them?
From my experience, you can pretty much go wherever you want, and it seems to be that it adjusts the people who are in your area and stuff, like kind of on the fly. But I think if you invite your friends, like if you're in a crew, or if you're playing with people on your friends list, then no, like you can be on opposite sides of the county from each other and just exist because you chose to be in the world together. So
all right, that's good, because that is something that's always bugged me about the open world multiplayer games.
Well, yeah,
like, Mercenaries 2 bothered me because you had a tether, like you had to be connected to your partner within like a certain radius, or else it was like, we can't handle this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, way to break immersion, asshole.
I think a lot of people who are quote unquote defending Grand Theft Auto 5 from criticism are focusing on the wrong parts. Like they're trying to like justify the satire and shit, and I'm like, that's not where you should be focusing your attention. You need to be blowing the trumpet on how cool the city and the online stuff is, because it's like we've never really had a persistent world of this size where people can just kind of chill, like just drive around and just be. It's pretty novel and exciting, but
yep.
I just wish there was more polished things to do. I can only just drive around and shoot people so much. Although I will say, I laughed my motherfucking ass off when it loaded my file one time and it didn't for whatever reason, I guess it like deleted my character and just gave me like a blank mannequin, like no hair, no facial expressions, just like this dead-eyed, like just fucking disturbing fish creature. It was the best glitch I've ever had. Also, once it spawned like me in a car in a stack of cars, it was just amazing. The early stuff was like worth the frustration just to see how it broke. Oh, man.
You've been playing anything else?
I know I have. What else have I been playing? Oh, motherfucking Beyond Two Souls. Why didn't we lead with that?
Because I think it's something nice to finish on.
You want us to come back to that? Because it's that might be the rest of the episode there.
Yeah, okay. All right. We can come back to it.
Okay. It's going to be like, skip to the end to hear the David Cage shit. What have you been playing then? That's me.
What have I been playing? I've been playing a couple of things. I'll get to the big one because I know that there's a couple of people who listen to the podcast that maybe follow me on Twitter that know that I played a very particular, what they consider to be a staple of gaming. But
oh my god, are we gonna share emotions, Johnny?
We're gonna share emotions, Austin. Emotions are gonna be shared. It's gonna be ooh.
I have a feel-rection right now.
Ooh. I did play a couple. I'm like this close to finishing Shadow Warrior. The only reason why I didn't finish it is because this other game that I'm going to talk about came into my possession, and I was going to start playing that. But I played a couple of indie games that I could say a little bit about. I played The Binding of Isaac for the first time. Team Meat. Their dungeon generated, weird, surreal, biblical twin stick. It's clever. It's good. It's weird.
It's Team Meat.
It's Team Meat. Yeah, they got the sense of humor. They've got. I don't know. It's neat, but I honestly don't know how much time I'm gonna get out of it.
Did you see it was a special feature on the Indie Game the Movie thing that they released?
Edmund McMillan wanted to give it away for free.
Yeah, he was like not even comfortable charging money for it at first, and then he was going to sell it to, I guess, was it like Adult Swim or something for like $40K?
Yeah, something like that.
And then he's like, fuck it, I'll just put it up for $5 and see what happens. And it was like $20 million later.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, wow, that was unexpected.
Well, I mean, you make a name for yourself, and then people kind of, I guess, start to expect a certain level of excellence, if you will. Yeah, it's good, but I don't know how much replay value is in it. I like it that they randomly generate the bosses and levels and things like that, but as far as top-down games like that go, where it's kind of like playing the game is the delight. Because you're obviously not playing through a storyline, you're not playing it to, like, beat that one boss that keeps getting you. It's because every time you play it, you're getting, like, confronted with these different things and whatnot. It's just sort of like, well, like, how many times do I have to play it before it starts to repeat? And even then, like, are there some bosses that I like and some bosses that I hate? Are there some levels that just get randomly generated that I'm like, this isn't really that interesting? Or, like power-up combinations or something, like I could understand that if I had fewer games to play, how I might spend quite a lot of time playing The Binding of Isaac.
That's how I feel about randomly generated games. It's like Rogue Legacy. I was like, that would be something I would put so much time into if I was, working at McDonald's. And like I just came home from work and I was like, I just want to kick back for an hour. But it's like, it's hard to find the motivation to just fuck around in randomly generated shit when it's like I have 200 Steam games with stories to get through.
And I mean, like they have their places too where it's just kind of like you can sort of sit down and be like, I'm going to play through one round of FTL, or I'm going to play through one round of The Binding of Isaac because I've got like fucking 30 minutes to kill and I don't want to do it watching whatever horrible fucking reality TV show is on right now. So yeah, okay, I'll play The Binding of Isaac for 30 minutes and we'll see where I get. So, like, having that around, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I can get that. But it's not really something where I'm going to be like, I'm going to play this game until I beat it. And when I beat it, I'm going to feel so fucking good about myself. I'm going to go out and fucking drive a dirt bike off a sweet jump, play a guitar solo.
Yeah, I feel you.
So it's fun. I mean, I can see why, that he didn't charge that much money for it.
I wish it would have been put on the 3DS eShop. I don't know if you heard about this. I think we might have even talked about it, where they submitted it, but Nintendo said that it would have been too offensive for like raising legitimate questions about the nature of religion. It wasn't that they thought it was like sacrilegious. They're like, it kind of brings up really legitimate points about how Christianity is fucked. It's like, we can't have that.
I think I speak for everybody when I say, Nintendo, grow a pair.
I'd like it on the 3DS, man. Just chilling sometimes. You're just in the doctor's waiting room, just killing some monsters with your little naked kid. That sounds weird.
Yep. That's what I do on my Sunday afternoons. I also played a little bit of another indie platformer called The Bridge.
I'm trying to remember if I don't think I've ever heard of that. What's that?
The Bridge is it's a, I want to say side scroller, but it's more like a side up, side downwards side scroller.
That clears it up.
Well, I mean, it's arty. It's an arty indie sort of puzzle side scroller.
It's a braid. It's a limbo.
It's trying to braid it up in limbo.
Okay.
Is what it's trying to do. It's you basically you play a math dude who is in his house, and he's exploring all these weird M.C. Escher-esque kind of levels, and basically you can control where he walks as well as the orientation of the screen. And while you control the orientation of the screen, gravity responds appropriately, so you can tip the screen upside down and he'll start to fall, and so it's kind of clever. But I mean, I played it.
It's funny though, because I mean, there was a time when 2D artsy platform puzzle things were not a genre, but now we're so inundated with them. As you were explaining the mechanics, I was like, oh, that sounds like and yet it moves. Oh, that sounds like V. I was like, yeah, I think what you're describing isn't so much a premise as a genre.
Yeah, and that's kind of the impression that I got when I was playing it. That having been said, the art design is great. It's all hand-drawn art. It looks to be hand-drawn art anyways. It's got this kind of sketched quality to it. If you've ever seen M.C. Escher's drawings, it's very, very reminiscent of that, where you'll be walking along one particular, a plateau, and then the wall curves upwards, so you have to turn the screen so that you walk onto the wall. And then it loops around, and then you're expecting, as you get the screen looped all the way around, that let's say it moves in a loop, that you're gonna walk and you're gonna hit the floor that you had just walked on, but it doesn't. You walk through it. It obeys these weird perspective puzzly styled surfaces and things like that, and you start to Some other puzzles are a little clever about how, you have to position yourself just so, because you need to manipulate the world so that a key that you need to get comes to your possession, but as you manipulate the world, you have to, adjust your position and where you're resting, or else you'll fall and hit a thing that kills you, and, they'll make you eat a pie, and then you discover that it's not a sweet pie, it's a potato pie, and you're like, why is this potato?
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah. Me too, actually. That's probably why I said it. Anyways, it's decent. It's decent, but, obviously having other games precede it, the whole artsy, hand-drawn, indie platformer kind of thing diminishes its impact. It's not really breaking new ground, but it is certainly artfully done, and it is fun. Of course, the big one, the big title that I got to play this week, as I so tweeted on my Twitter, Austin.
You Austin?
Austin, got to play The Last of Us.
I heard. You said your friend was going to lend it to you when it came out. It's been 3 months.
Well, I imagine he was busy playing The Last of Us.
Oh, good decision on his part. It's a good game.
Yeah. So I'm only I'm not even sure how far in I am because the time just kind of like got sucked away. I also find it more difficult to keep track of how long I've spent playing a game on a console, whereas opposed to Steam, where I can just like hit a button and it's like, you've been playing this for 422 minutes, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that is the
Um,
thing. I have to like mentally keep track of how long I've been playing console games. I did that with Disgaea. I was like, oh shit, how am I even going to keep track of this?
yeah, when I get non-Steam games to review, I keep a little like stopwatch nearby and I like tally it up on a notepad. Yeah, I'm at the point in time in the game where you're with a guy. I think his name is Dawn. I don't remember his name. You're going to him and there's all these like booby traps around and you finally get to him and you're like, we need a car. And he's like, I have a car, but it's everywhere. And you're like, okay, let's go collect the car. And the girl is like, whatever.
The guy, I think the guy you're thinking of is Bill.
Is it? Yeah, it might be Bill.
Yeah.
Bill or Dawn or Dwight or Joe or...
Yeah, you're not very far.
No, I'm not. I'm not very far. I'm not even out of summer yet. I recognize that, you know, but it like I'm taking my time with it because I'm trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to enjoy it as this like magnum opus of this console generation that so many people have told me that it truly is.
You're savoring it.
I am. I'm savoring it. I'm making a meal out of it, you know, like I don't want to rush through this and it's paying off in a lot of weird ways. But then, like, you know, and I like before anybody screams, I'm gonna explain myself when I say and disappointing me in others. But I think that's more a measure of expectation than actual quality of the product. I do absolutely have to say right off the bat that I am fucking surprised that this game is as big as a hit as it is.
Because it's not just shooting zombies for 10 hours?
Because it's just not shooting zombies for 10 hours. Like, I'm kind of amazed at how much time I have spent dedicated to wandering through empty, like, derelict buildings and neighborhoods. Where it's like there's fucking nobody around. And you're just like, you know, walking along like, it's quiet.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has the AAA action moments, but it also has plenty of just mood building, just kind of tense parts where you're just like scrounging for scrap in a basement somewhere, and it's just like, yeah, it doesn't feel the need to throw things in your face every few seconds. It's restrained in all the right places, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't know when to cut loose.
And that's what I think surprises me the most about it, is that it is such a nuanced game. Like there's subtlety to it that I wouldn't expect to become as popular as it has. And that's kind of, because, you know, like, I mean, certainly there are moments of tension where, like, you know, you're either, you know, something is about to happen and you can sense it's about to happen, or something has just happened and you're still kind of coming down from it. But there are honest-to-God moments that I find kind of relaxing, where you're just, like, fucking walking along and you're sort of like, I feel pretty safe right here. I don't think that there's anything going wrong, and there's like a casual conversation going on between whoever's like hanging out on screen. They're just talking about shit, and you're sort of like, yep, Tuesday night, hanging out in the ruins.
That's something actually I'm going to talk about with the last game I played, but yeah, some of the best moments are just the kind of quiet interludes between the things you're supposed to get excited about. I know in The Last of Us, one of the favorite things about it is that you can find a joke book, and all throughout the game, Ellie will like read parts of it to you just during downtime, and it's like, it seems like it would be out of place in a kind of post-apocalyptic zombie thriller, but it brings more humanity to it, because in real life, even in a life or death kind of scenario, you know, people don't stop being human the rest of the time.
Yeah. So there is that, like the overall mood that it manages. I kind of find to be sort of fascinating. Although I guess that's like, you know, that's something that you can either savor or you can just like buzz right through.
Oh yeah, certainly. If you just want to shoot zombies, just run from fucking cutscene to cutscene.
Yeah, so I guess that's understandable in the sense, but it occurs to me then that honestly it should not necessarily be, again, as popular a game as it should, because while like its true triumph to me lies in its presentation. That is to say, like, you know, its environments, its characterization, its setup, even like the cinematography and the sound design, the music that they choose to use.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack is gorgeous.
Yeah, you know, like it's totally, and again, you know, like I'm only a few hours in, but I can already like I can feel the gravity of just how well put together it is. Even something as simple as the way that they bring the credit sequence to you.
Oh yeah.
You know, where it's like it starts and there's no real title screen. It's just like, check it, a window. Do you want to play a game? Okay. The Last of Us.
Yeah. I think we had when Taylor was on, he was talking about how he watched some of like the making of features that were not publicly available. I think it was like in a special edition he got or something.
Yeah.
He was talking about how they basically redesigned an entire building over like one tiny detail. It was just like they wanted the sign facing another direction, so they completely changed everything about this block of real estate. And it was like, that's the kind of insanity that would get you fucking fired from most studios. But Naughty Dog, they're like, good on you.
Yeah, yeah.
I like your fucking zest for life, son.
But, you know, like, I gotta say that a lot of the actual gameplay itself, pretty plain.
It's a third-person stealth cover shooter.
Yeah, for the most part. You know, like, and I mean, sometimes I would even go so far as to say that it's like, it confuses itself, I feel. Like, that's gonna take a little bit of complaining to do. Or not complaining, excuse me, explaining, on my part. Where I feel as though, like, most of the game that I've played, it has a pretty clear idea of what it is that it's trying to do. You know, like what certain segments are intended to do what, etc. But then there are small moments that it feels as though it's not quite sure. Where it's like, well, you know, like most of the action that we've had for the past little while has been tense stealth. But so, like, it might be nice to have, like, an action sequence. But, I mean, we don't just want to jam an action sequence down the player's throat. So, you know, like, maybe we can try and find a way to, like, lead them into an action sequence, but, you know, like, maybe not make them feel like they're forced to do it. But then you kind of, like, beat it a little bit. Or you game the game a certain way, and you're like, wow, I think that maybe they were trying to do something different than what I actually wound up doing there.
I can't say I ever got that exact feeling. I think it gives you the tools to approach most of the situations in a couple of different ways. Like, you can go Rambo or stealth in most, and it gives you kind of just enough ammo to get by. But I don't know.
I'm finding that with most of the game. I'm talking, like, there was one particular incident that happened in, I think it was like an office building or something. You know, like, it's really weird to say, where it's like, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that was, because it was pretty ruinous.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been an office, maybe it was a daycare. Perhaps it was a movie set for the Mindy Project. That's not a movie, it's a television show.
I'm vaguely aware of its existence, yes.
In any case, you know, like there was that moment in particular, and then it did something kind of ridiculous to me. I think it was in a subway station maybe, or something at one point in time where I fucked up and I died. And then when it brought me back, but everybody in the area knew that I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what?
I can't say that ever happened to me. You seems like you got bad checkpoint luck there.
Yeah, and I wasn't really sure about that. I was sort of like, okay, maybe it was sort of like I was supposed to blow something at this point in time, and they were supposed to detect me, but then I was supposed to get out of it, but I didn't get out of it, so the checkpoint's like, oh no, they know you're there, and I'm like, because it happened to me one other time as well, where I made a checkpoint that I actually hadn't gotten to yet, so that when I died, it loaded me up ahead of where I was supposed to be.
Huh.
And I was like, why? I guess I'll take it.
That's that's funny because I remember that something else similar. I was talking to Taylor about something, and he's really bad at video games. I think it was with Devil May Cry, the recent reboot,
Yeah.
and he's talking about, oh yeah, I died and something happened. And I was like, shit, I don't think I ever died once during DMC. Maybe I should purposefully kill myself sometimes when I review games. Just to make sure the checkpoint system is okay, because usually I don't die.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably maybe just didn't run into that.
I haven't been it hasn't happened a lot, I think I've only died 2 or 3 times. It doesn't help that I'm playing on a controller. I'm terrible with controllers. Particularly when it comes to shooters and things that require dexterity and a little bit of a soft touch. It's different if it's side scrollers, because I'm I pressed the jump button.
It's worth reiterating for new or casual listeners that Johnny is the PC master race, so this is kind of a big deal.
I'm my mouse and keyboard skills are whack, son. I think Flava Flav wrote a song about it.
Not again.
But yeah, so I'm not as good at some of the shooting as I normally would be if I had the tools of my trade. But I'm still insisting that I play it through on normal, because I want the experience. And yeah, so there've been I think it's 3 times. I think I died in 3 locations. And one time it was just because I did something stupid. And then this other time in the subway where it popped me back in the same place again, and fucking everybody knew where I was. And I was like, oh shit. And then I shit a brick. And then I threw that brick, so it all worked out in the end, actually. And then, this other time where it pulled me ahead of where I had actually been, and I was kind of so it's, 2 out of the 3 times I've died, things have kind of, fucked up a little bit, and I'm May. So I wasn't really sure if that was, design decisions or something like that. But, yeah, the 3rd time was just something really fucking stupid. That was me being hey, what's this on the wall?
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, I think if you're gonna pass any kind of judgment on The Last of Us, you have to at least get to winter, because everything, it's the game is all leading up to that point. So I mean, all of this is good. But when you get there, that's when we need to have the discussion.
I'm enjoying it so far, and I can I'm giving them absolutely, there doesn't even have to be a benefit of the doubt. I don't even have to qualify saying benefit of the doubt, because I can say the way that they've managed to build up relationships just in this first part of the game. I'm really looking forward to learning more about Joel and learning more about Ellie, and it just and all these other things as well too. There's already a little bit of foreshadowing about Uncle Tommy.
Yep. It's much better written than the Uncharted games. I think that's pretty clear from the outset.
Absolutely. Like I say, it's even at this point in time, I can say it's it's a tour de force of presentation. It's a total triumph in the way that it presents itself to the player. Which is, again, why I'm always amazed when the video game playing public actually embraces something that's good for reasons that video games aren't usually good for. Not just games that are I like to shoot the man in the head because it feel good when he die and go boom.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're this should be above the...
I'm sort of
the peasants.
I'm kind of dude, I'm playing art. This is I am playing art. This is drama. This is legitimate drama that I am playing, and other people appreciate it. That always kind of I get this brief flicker of moment where I'm people are actually smarter than I give them credit for, and then I have to wait in line at the ATM or something like that, and I'm no, they're not.
Yeah.
Speaking of feels, though, Austin, I hear you had all the feels this week.
Speaking of emotional tour de forces starring people who look like Ellen Page.
Yeah.
So as we speak, I guess it would be the 7th today, the embargo for Beyond Two Souls is not up. But by the time you hear this on the 8th, it will be. So that's how we're doing it. It's like a time-traveling podcast.
See, this is embargo. This is embargo. Austin and I are co-workers. We exist in the same metaphorical space. We're like Time Cop, the movie, and Bloodsport, the movie, if they were the same movie.
Oh my god, did you know David Cage worked on Time Cop?
No.
Apparently he helped, with the music. Like, he didn't compose it or anything, but
that's kind of eerie.
Like, he did, work with some of the composers or something. I don't know, I was reading about it earlier.
Crazy.
That's really
I did not know that. That's kind of creepy, actually.
But he did it under his real name. Like, David Cage is not his actual, that's his pen name.
Yeah.
But
the question remains, do you want to be Time Cop or do you want to be Bloodsport?
Time Cop.
All right, that could be Bloodsport.
Okay, Beyond Two Souls. My review will be out at 8 a.m. Pacific. So if you're hearing this with your ears, that is available for you to read right now.
If you are hearing this with your nose, go see a doctor.
Well, maybe not. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I'm not saying go see a doctor because there's something wrong with you. It's go see a doctor because I want to know what the hell is going on. Are you the next human?
I should be clear because I think David Cage and Quantic Dream bring with them a lot of baggage, especially for this podcast where we
Lots of baggage.
Just countless hours of discussion on them. For the record, Omicron the Nomad Soul, Johnny, what's our thoughts on that?
It had potential. It got stupid fast.
Actually, I was going to go through them game by game, but I think we can just sum up the entire oeuvre by saying it had potential but got stupid fast.
I think that's pretty fair. Fahrenheit/Indigo Prophecy, I think it was a while before it got stupid.
It got stupid eventually, though.
It got stupid eventually, but, it showed, I feel, at least in my opinion, it had the most actualized potential of his unique vision of what a video game should be.
Heavy Rain got stupid eventually.
Heavy Rain got stupid, Heavy Rain got stupid pretty quickly.
Well, my biggest problems with Heavy Rain, and I've said this before, is the gaping plot holes and the acting, really. I felt it was either wooden or silly. I felt that it was probably the best gameplay of anything he's made so far. But basically, all of his games have bright points, but they're kind of overshadowed by failings.
They're flawed efforts.
Yeah. Not without redeeming qualities.
No. They're good efforts with apparent flaws.
I think the biggest issue, and I think why we rag on him so much, is that he talks such a huge game. Like, his rhetoric is not only conflicting with the products he creates, but sometimes just completely misrepresents them. There's the quote. He's like, "Oh man, you can't get published in this industry. All anyone wants is games with gun battles and car chases. I don't do that. I make real art." And
then immediately we see a trailer for Beyond Two Souls that has both gun battles and car chases in it.
I think every game he's ever made has gun battles and car chases.
More or less, yeah.
Literally, if he didn't talk so much, maybe
he's got the Molyneux. He's got the Molyneux is what he's got. And kudos to Peter Molyneux because he seems to have shut up a little bit ever since he got out of Lionhead Studios, but...
Well, that's because he made fat bank with fucking 22 cans and the Curiosity Cube.
Yeah, well...
He doesn't need to talk anymore.
No, I guess not.
But yes, Beyond Two Souls, I just wanted to set the stage that we don't hate David Cage and his work, but that you need to have perspective from where I'm coming. When I say to you, Johnny, that I love Beyond Two Souls... It's really good. It's really good, dude. Are
you sure?
Dude, I dug it. I dug it good. It's not...
This is going to require some explaining.
It's going to require some explaining, yeah. Okay, I'll start here where I start my review, is that the writing is just much better. I don't know if it's him growing as an artist or if he has, other people who are working on it with him. If he writes in French, I assume, and translates it. Maybe that has something to do with it. Whatever the case, there's not any gaping plot holes. The characters that you're supposed to like are much more likable. Everyone feels more human. Their dialogue is more natural. There's just a lot more moments, human and dramatic, that just resonate with you. I didn't get any feels, but I recognize moments in which it competently attempted to evoke feels. Like I nodded in approval of those feel moments.
You were like, yes, I see the feels.
Yeah, that it wasn't quite with me. I mean, the game does bank somewhat on the universal feelings of kind of like loss and stuff, and it's like I'm just kind of a heartless bastard. Like I don't.
Everybody knows that orphans have no souls, Austin. It's okay.
That's the thing. It's like if someone close to me died, I'd be like, "Oh, that sucks." Like I don't.
Well, that sucks. Time to pick up Fire Emblem.
I guess, yeah. I'm just kind of not the right target audience for that, maybe. I'm in the feels category. But as far as the writing goes, it's just better all around. My main complaint with the writing this time is that I think the antagonists are weak. I think that they are a little too evil for evil's sake. But the good thing is that it's not about the antagonists. It's just about Jodie Holmes, a.k.a. Ellen Page, just living, being a person in the world. Like it's non-chronological. Like the game starts and she's like 20, and it's like the next mission she's like 5, and the next mission she's like 14, and then she's 22. It's like it jumps all around in such a way that you kind of get a panoramic, a collage of a person's life. And the order, at first it kind of seems like random, but it makes sense. You get information in such an order that it feels the most dramatic. The pacing stays pretty damn good. Like it's like there are just quiet moments of just talking with people. There's comedy, and there's just little things like snowball fights with other children, and then all of a sudden it's like serious, like edge of your seat horror, and then all of a sudden it's fucking like people bawling their eyes out drama, and it doesn't feel schizophrenic because of the structure of it. It's just like it's just really deftly handled, and I don't think he could have done it a year or two ago. Like it seems like either he has really grown or someone else is helping him. I don't know which is the case, but it's not the same David Cage that wrote Heavy Rain, where everything was so telegraphed. It's like, spend an hour with your family. They are doomed. It was just like you could see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah,
and it's just like there are moments where it's like, okay, something bad's about to happen, but I don't think it diminishes when it does happen. And there's a lot of freedom in the game. This is something people always say about David Cage's games. It's like, they're just movies. They're interactive movies. He wants to be a director, not a game developer. And it's like that's not a inaccurate criticism, but I feel like he's perfected that style of game.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that I can say about his game presentation, it's that they're probably the closest things that you could like of a video game. They're probably the closest things that you can get to movies without actually like ditching what a video game should be. Like they're not like FMV. It's not
yeah.
It's not like fucking Phantasmagoria 2 the game where it's like, all you're doing is just finding the hot spot to click on and then you get a movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're still games. They still bank entirely on, user interaction, on you making choices and you being a present part of the story and the universe that he tries to provide you. I mean, even Heavy Rain had that.
Yeah, but I would argue that it was still kind of in its infancy. I think Telltale's The Walking Dead came pretty close to just fucking nailing that style of gameplay. Yeah. And Beyond is closer to The Walking Dead than it is Heavy Rain.
Although, to tell you that, I don't want to talk too much about The Walking Dead. It's like, the thing about The Walking Dead is that The Walking Dead games are, like, movie up to a point, and then it's like, you get to make one choice.
Yeah, that's The Walking Dead, is it takes interesting characters and puts them in hard situations and just goes, what do you think?
Or even, whereas even Heavy Rain had, like, situations that you would go into, and it's sort of like, okay, this is going to play out in one of a couple of different ways. Deal with it. And it was like, it was not necessarily immediately apparent as to, like, in the first episode of The Walking Dead where it's like, hey, do you save that chick or do you save that guy? Like that those are the kind of choices that gave The Walking Dead they were big choices, but they were apparent choices. Whereas, like, in Heavy Rain, it's sort of like, you walk into a situation, and it's like, okay, there's, like, a bunch of different things here that I might or might not do.
I think Beyond and Heavy Rain both kind of have the more indirect choices. Like, when you're making them, you don't quite grasp the full extent of their implications. I think I'm not going to spoil Heavy Rain, right? At this point, like there's a part where you have to like choose whether or not to like kill a guy, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, you're like, well, I'm debating the moral implications of whether or not it's okay to kill this guy. But in a broader sense, you're actually deciding like how many clues you get to find where your son is, like at the end. Like there's actually two choices you're making there, and it might not be immediately apparent to the player.
Yeah.
But like in The Walking Dead, it's like save this person or save that person. That is the meat of it.
Pretty much
in the moment. So
that's what I'm suggesting is that like David Cage has come pretty much as close to movies as you can get without removing what make them games.
And
having been said, a number of these games weren't necessarily great.
Well, that was the problem. But
they were still games.
Yeah, the problem was that they were not very good movies.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with not liking that style of game. If you want to go play more traditional, quote unquote games like, Mario or Zelda, like those still exist.
The Last of Us, yeah.
Like David Cage's success will not erase those games from existence. So I welcome just a variety and options in style. So I have no problem with what he is attempting. I just was waiting for him to be good at it, which is finally where he is. The game movie, if you will, this is basically the best. Unless you want to count The Walking Dead, that's kind of like a point and click hybrid. But unless you want to count that, this is basically the best example of that there is so far. He's basically nailed it in that it feels like you're getting taken along on this cinematic journey, but you're also making decisions and affecting outcomes. And it's fun and it keeps you entertained and invested. And it's just, I didn't want to stop playing. I put a lot of time into it. I've seen like 6 endings or some shit. Like I just keep going back to it. And it was really hard. Like I didn't really get any Final Fantasy 13 2 accomplished because I just kept replaying parts of Beyond Two Souls. There's things I wanted to point out. One is that QuickTime events. That's the big thing. People are like, oh, fucking QuickTime events. They are the worst. They ruin every game they touch. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they can be used right. I think God of War 3 did a very good job of that. But most games fuck them up. Can we agree on that?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's pretty sensible to say.
I think a lot of times developers just want to make a cutscene that doesn't feel like a cutscene, so they just throw in button prompts. And if you fail it, you have to watch it over again.
Yeah.
It's not fun. You can't focus on the action. Like, you want to watch it, but you have to kind of pay attention to these button prompts. And I just think nobody wins in that situation. Heavy Rain kind of suffered from that. Beyond has a few of those Heavy Rain style QTEs, but for the most part, it's this new system where there's like dots on the screen, just little white dots like next to items. So like there's a dot next to a bottle. So if you walk over to where that bottle is and you push the right stick in the direction of the dot, they'll interact with it in a way that you would expect. Like that's just kind of simple. And Heavy Rain, it'd be like you want to open the car door, so you gotta, push L1, R2, and then tap X in rhythm because that's just what pops up on the screen. Like there's no fucking one-to-one correlation between the actions and the input. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But Beyond kind of simplifies most of those actions just to like, hey, interact with that thing in a way that makes sense. So that part's fine. But to me, the more interesting thing is what he does with the action sequences, which are like, okay, someone's going to punch Jodie. So time kind of slows down a little bit, and you can see the way her body moves. And this is where the motion capture is so important, is because you got to move the right analog stick in the direction of her body movement. You might be, for example, a lot of times like someone will try to like swing something at you, and it's like, what does the game want me to duck it or block it or like punch him in the throat or like what do I do? And I think at first a lot of people are going to be frustrated, but you have to take in the scene visually. Cage is a visual artist, and you have to look at the scene in a way that QuickTime events normally don't let you do. Normally, Where's the prompt? Where's the prompt? No, you have to stop, take in the scene. Which way is she moving? You need to move with her body movement to complete the action. And it's like, how has no one ever thought of this? This is so fucking brilliant. I can take in the entire set piece. I can see all the detail, and I can still affect the outcome. I can do things that aren't possible during normal gameplay. And if you fail, and here's the other cool part, there is no game over state. You can't lose. It'll never be like, try that part again, watch that cutscene again, start that quick time event over from the beginning, and that is the fucking worst. Anyone who lost that knife fight in Resident Evil 4 knows what I'm talking about. And at first this sounds like, oh, there's no challenge, you can't lose. And it's like, you need to rethink the way that we consider death in video games. We're not in the arcade era anymore. David Cage does not want your quarters for Pac-Man. He's trying to tell a story. And so if you miss the quick time event when someone swings a knife at you, guess what? Now Jodie has a fucking scar, and it's your fault. You did that to her because you didn't do you don't lose and have to replay the scene. It's just saving you a loading screen mechanically. But more importantly, is you have to live with your failures. So when characters die because you didn't push the button on time, you killed that person, and there's no loading from a checkpoint. That person's dead.
Yeah, the idea of consequence is different.
It's even better. I always say the 2009 Prince of Persia reboot where you couldn't die.
Yeah. And
I love that game. People were like, "Oh, it's too easy. You can't die." And I was like, "Well, you don't die in traditional games when the ghosts catch you in Pac-Man. You don't have to go to the afterlife. You don't attend your funeral. You just put a quarter in and restart. It's just punitive. It's annoying." Prince of Persia did away with that. It just got past the loading screen and got you back into the fight. And that's something I want to see more of in games. I don't want things like Hotline Miami to go away, where dying makes sense from a design perspective. But if you're trying to tell a cinematic story, every time I have to watch the same cutscene or do the same QuickTime event over again, it's a waste of my time. In fact, frankly, as much as I hate throwing this term around, it's ludonarrative dissonance because the character didn't die in the story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Your archaic...
I mean, if the character actually died in the story, it was like, sorry, that's it, you can't play this game anymore.
Yeah, you missed the QuickTime event, that person gets beheaded, and then the story goes on without them. That's cool. But if they get beheaded and then it says, do that part again, it's like your gameplay is directly impeding the flow of the narrative.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be every game. I don't even want it to be most or half. But if there's 5% of cinematic action games that do away with death to tell a more excellently paced and gripping story, I'm all for that. And that's what Beyond does. It really has finally delivered on the promise of everything David Cage has been saying about story and emotion and feelings and mechanics and every bullshit word he's ever said kind of comes true finally in this game.
Austin, you have done the impossible.
What have I done?
You have made me want to play David Cage's new game. It's
pretty fun, and I gotta say, I played it, my girlfriend watched me play it, and she dug it hardcore too. She's like, "Can you play that again?" As soon as I finished. And I played it, I've beaten it a few times now. It's a full 9-10 hour campaign. Wow. And it's there's a story. There's one beginning to end story, but it's a flexible skeleton around which, like I said, scars come and go depending on your things you do. Sometimes you get captured or people die around you, and you can change that. Those things are very dependent on your actions. You can't completely derail the plot, but you can change the kind of person Jodie turns out to be, and you can kind of change the way she relates to people. And I think it's meaningful changes, but it's not something people are gonna if you don't go in looking for Mass Effect. My God, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is very much one story about one person, and as long as you have the right expectations, I think you'll dig this game. I'm trying to think of criticism here because I've been praising David Cage and it feels weird.
How's the acting?
The acting's good. Yeah, Ellen Page knocks it out of the park. I will say,
no uncanny valley.
There's a little uncanny valley, but not so much of it that it detracts from anything. Well, what I was going to say was, it sucks that this game came out after The Last of Us. Because if it had been before, it would be like the new gold standard. But now The Last of Us is the new gold standard. Now you're only second place in like everything. I'm talking about acting, music, graphics, cinematic aspirations. Beyond.
So I'm still ahead of the game here by playing The Last of Us. Then is that what's going on here?
Yeah, The Last of Us is number one in all those. It's I've talked about this before. It's not perfect, but it's a 10 out of 10 on the BT scale. I think I'm giving Beyond an 8, partially because of the weak antagonists, and also there's kind of a control/camera thing. This is all of his games are kind of like that, but it's not quite tank controls, but you don't move with human smoothness. You got to kind of stop and turn. It's just a little off, and it does kind of break the flow. And sometimes the camera's weird. There's one specific spot where it's like I can't see where I need to go because the camera is just not in an intelligent place. It felt like I was in a Resident Evil hallway, and I was like, this is not where I would have put the camera. And that's just, I understand aesthetically why he put it there, but that's just not where it should have been.
Yeah.
Other than that, it crashed once, and a couple times there's like some kind of between choosing dialogue options and executing them, there's like sometimes a little bit of disconnect where like the camera angle doesn't pay it service. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like there could have been a smoother transition from like they're sitting there talking and then you pick a thing and then it cuts to them saying that thing instead of like taking a breath. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not a smooth transition there. And that's just, those are minor things, but The Last of Us really doesn't have any of those kind of little hiccups. It never crashed on me. It doesn't have any kind of problems with movement or camera or any of that stuff. And that's the 10 out of 10. Beyond is 8. It's awesome. It's really cool in a lot of ways, and I recommend it. It's a good value. It's probably the best value that David Cage has ever put out. It's a full, solid campaign, replay value, stuff to unlock, great music, great acting. It has horror, it has drama, it has comedy, it has quiet moments of reflection. It solves the quick time event problem pretty brilliantly. Does away with kind of preconceptions about death in video games. Deals with some interesting thematic content. Jeez, man. It's a lot more than I thought I'd be saying in favor of the latest Quantic Dream project.
Yeah, jeez, Austin, stop sucking David Cage's dick for a second, would you?
I'm sorry. I didn't. It would have been way funnier if I hated it. Believe me. For all of our sake, it would have been great if I'd come on here and be like, who does he think he is? But that would just be dishonest.
Wow. Yeah, that still though. Like I said, you've done the impossible.
I think it's more impressive that he's won me over than if someone who's already on his side was like, yeah, this new game's good. Like
we've thrown a lot of shit in his direction.
Yeah, it would have been in our interest for it not to be as good as it is.
It's nice to know, though, like just as people, like as fans of the genre, that we are not so jaded.
I enjoy intellectual flexibility, not being stuck in ways of thinking. It was like, David Cage sucks, he's always sucked, he always will suck. Like, that's just not a kind of person I ever want to be. And I am always open to new ideas and thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he proved me wrong. I'm always open to being proved wrong.
All right, you guys heard it here first. Austin says David Cage's Beyond Two Souls, 8 out of 10, Game of the Year by now.
No, Last of Us probably Game of the Year. We'll see.
Shut up.
Have I said this before? I like Fire Emblem more than The Last of Us, but The Last of Us is better.
That's always a tough pill to swallow. I know what you mean, where you're like, oh, I want this to be the best thing ever, but it's really only my favorite thing.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I'm going to finish the Beyond review. I'm like halfway through it. Then I'm going to edit this. They'll both be up, hopefully, at embargo tomorrow. Because you're not allowed to listen to this before 8 a.m. Pacific. If you're listening to this before 8 a.m. Pacific, don't tell Sony. They'll be very grumpy. Although I was really positive, so they probably won't be. That's what I played this week. I don't know how much more I have to say about anything else. There was not much news. Pretty positive.
Yeah.
Can you believe I just fucking said all that shit?
It's kind of surprising.
Oh man, there's gonna be plenty of people who just dismiss it out of hand. It's funny because when Heavy Rain came out, it was pretty hyped. Everyone's like, oh, this is this bold new vision. This is the future of video games.
Really excited for it.
And I was kind of worried that people will get carried away by the hype and overvalue it. And now I'm worried that people are gonna go into Beyond with like low expectations and kind of not give it the credit it deserves. It's like a complete reversal. That would be such a shame if people dismissed this game because of Heavy Rain. And did you see the official statement by the PlayStation blog? They tried to distance it. They're like, Beyond Two Souls is not just another Heavy Rain. They have like officially like sent out a thing to say that. Like they're like actually worried about it, which is funny because Heavy Rain was a huge financial success. It made back like multiple times its budget.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily something that you want to.
You want to try to distance them a little bit.
Yeah, you don't want to bank on that. You don't want to be like, well, surely people would appreciate the same thing again. Particularly considering exactly how maligned Heavy Rain was, sort of popularly.
I think a lot of it was hindsight. I think everyone was pretty excited about it, like when it came out and like for a couple months, and then everyone was like, actually, I thought about it, and there are giant gaping plot holes.
I never liked it right from the get-go.
Oh, just like right out of the bat?
Right out of the bat, I had problems with it.
Jeez, I was a little worried about the how manipulative the opening is, but I don't know. I've always said that I thought there are plenty of good stuff about Heavy Rain. In the middle there, at least. You just didn't like it the whole way through?
Yeah, pretty much. He tried to create these situations that just I remember the power plant segment.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There was the whole middle section is just like a disconnected series of like Saw moments.
Yeah. And even the female reporter seemed like such an extraneous character.
Oh yeah, and then there's not the forced, but the really unnecessary sex scene where it's like, I know your son's been kidnapped and we don't know each other. Do you want to bang?
Yeah, it was like, and it was that thing where it was, the only reason why she was there was to supplement his storyline. Like that was it.
Well, a lot of that is because a lot of stuff was cut. I don't know if you've ever seen the deleted scenes or any of like the storyboards and stuff, but whole chunks of that game are missing.
Yeah, but that doesn't excuse what comes out the other end as the final product.
No, that's true. So
you can't just be like, it was gonna be good.
No, I completely agree, but I think it's interesting at least to see why the game sucks in certain ways.
Yeah, I had some huge problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna no matter what. Like Beyond could be The Last of Us good, and it wouldn't matter. Some people are just gonna not want to play it because it's a David Cage style movie game. Do we have a term for that? Like cinematic
wank.
Wank. You know what I mean, though.
I'm not suggesting that necessarily. Beyond Two Souls is a cinematic wank, but I think it's pretty much fair to say that Heavy Rain was a cinematic wank.
It's there, but I mean, are you comfortable just calling them like adventure games? Because they're not point and click, but they kind of come from that tradition it's kind of like the modern incarnation of the.
Yeah, I guess it's fair to call them adventure games.
Beyond actually has puzzle elements. I didn't really talk about. A really major mechanic of it is, you are two souls. There's Ellen Page's character, and then, how much of this has been revealed? I don't want to spoil it. She has psychic powers because of her link with this entity.
What?
This entity that she's linked to, and you play as it, like half the game. It's not like scripted. Like you can walk around as Ellen Page, and then you could just hit the button, and now you're the entity. And you kind of like float around. It's really fucking cool, actually. It reminds me of like a super good version of like what was that? The PsyOps, the Mind Gate conspiracy. Is that what that was called? Heard of that?
Maybe.
PsyOps, the Mind Gate. It's autofilled. Yeah, PsyOps, the Mind Gate conspiracy. That was a game for the PS2. It's like a good version of that, or Geist for the GameCube. If anyone ever plays Geist. But those are games about that game is about being a poltergeist. You were just floating around and possessing stuff, and that's one of her like abilities. Like, you know, she can use her powers to like knock things over, or she can like take over someone's body and like, you know, open a door, or like possess a soldier to shoot another soldier. And there's you could almost build like a actual like Splinter Cell style like stealth game on the mechanics of Beyond, but there are really only a couple sequences where it goes in that direction, and I'm actually kind of glad it doesn't go too far, because it does just enough where you get it, and then it moves on. It doesn't linger and it doesn't repeat itself, and I think that's cool. I think plenty of other people would have just made the entire game out of those sequences, and I think it was smart to keep them as bite-sized as they are. But yeah, it's basically like there's parts where it's like Metal Gear, except you have a psychic ghost with you that you can switch to and you fuck with people at any time. It's pretty cool.
I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if the next Metal Gear game had a psychic ghost with you anyways. That sounds like something that Hideo Kojima would write.
Yeah, Psycho Mantis Jr.
Something like that.
I'm surprised that's not a thing already. But yeah, I barely even touched on that. But yeah, a good portion of the game is like, you know, Ellen Page walks around, talks to people, and now you're a fucking ghost, and you can go through ceilings and floors and walls and just like fuck shit up. It's pretty sweet. If anyone's played Geist or PsyOps the Mindgate Conspiracy,
nobody has played Geist or PsyOps the Mind Conspiracy, Austin. Quit reaching. Nobody.
They're real.
0 people have played these games.
Tell me in the comments if you played those games. They're real. I played them. But yeah, that's what I did this week. That's what I'm talking about. Back me up, guys. Hand soap.
Hand soap dispensers, asshole.
I don't want an asshole dispenser. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, you probably don't want one of those. We have enough of them around here as it is. We don't need more dispensed.
Is that... Oh, man, I missed a perfectly good opportunity to make a fucking Congress joke out of that. We didn't touch at all on... You know, my government shut down, Johnny? How did we not...
I am aware of that. And you know what? I've been expecting it to happen to the U.S. for some time now.
I feel like we should have broached that topic.
Because I got to tell you something. I'm not sure your government has been working for a long time now. I think this is just like, you know, you're finally like coming round to accept it.
We're just owning it now.
I don't think this is the Republicans or the Tea Party, like, you know, holding Congress hostage. I think that like they're finally coming to the realization. They're like, wow, this shit's broken. Like, it hasn't been working for a long time. Everybody, shut it down.
I just thought it was great that apparently you can just choose not to do the job for which you were elected. Like, just not do it. Yep. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. Can I just not work and get paid? I didn't know.
Well, why don't we...
is that on the table?
Why don't we wait and see how many of those people become rehired the next time their review comes around.
Politics.
Your politics system is so fucked up, man. Like, the American public, just like, they're on a fucking pendulum. They're like, I don't like you guys, I'm gonna vote for the other guys. And then the other guys do something, and they're like, you had me last year, but this year, goddammit, I'm gonna vote for those other guys that I stopped voting for the last time. And then it just keeps going back and forth. It's like watching a fucking game of tennis. A boring game of tennis where nobody scores. No, wait, sorry. They would both score once, because I got to tell you something about American politics as tennis. There's no love.
I get it. That's a tennis joke.
You bet your ass it is. I made a sports joke, motherfucker.
It's good bookends. We started with sports, we'll end with sports.
It works for me.
All right. Fucking Pokemon comes out on Saturday.
Are you, like, so have you played it then?
Pokemon? No.
Yeah.
We didn't get a copy.
What a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, Nintendo, they're the most arcane and the most draconian. They're yeah. We're lucky when we do get copies, and when we do, I have to sign a several page document, and it's a hassle at the best of times. And Pokemon specifically, even for the biggest of sites, was apparently a nightmare. And if you read any of their reviews, it's awful.
You'll forgive me if I didn't immediately leap to reading reviews of Pokemon XY on sites like IGN.
I know. Actually, it's funny. Polygon's review went live with fucking fan art. They couldn't get enough assets to even fill it out.
Seriously?
It's been updated since, but yeah, it went live with fan art.
That is fucking hilarious.
Of non-existent Pokemon. Like, they weren't real.
Wow.
Like, just made up Pokemon that someone made. Like, it was a situation. I'm actually kind of glad that we weren't even part of it and that I can just play it on my own time.
Wow. Well, all right then. I'll leave you to your ministering of your knees and your finishing of your Beyond reviews and your being a Floridian.
It's an unpleasant life. Someone has to do it, though.
Otherwise, we would have no Florida. It would be like, and what's that? That is the Lost Land. We do not speak of it.
It's the Everglades. No, why would anyone ever try to live there?
You know, freedom from the government. Spelled with a
God.
B, of course. Gubment. The government.
Oh, jeez. If it was economically and like just feasible in other ways, I'd fucking move to Canada. I'm tired of these chuckle fucks.
You know what? It's fucking hilarious to me. I saw a post on Facebook the other day that was like, the next time you criticize a teenage girl for having self-centered behavior, remember that there are currently a bunch of old white guys in Washington that stop the government because they aren't getting their way.
Oh, man. Just like the Founding Fathers would have wanted.
It is imperative to the operation of an excellent and representative government that if those who do not get their way kick the ball into the woods.
I think I'm going to end on that. That's good.